The alarm sounds echoed through the crystal halls of Serenity Prime. High Counselor Vethka lifted her long neck and looked at the red lights flashing on every wall. Her blue skin turned pale as she read the message on her screen. Another world was gone. "How many does that make?" she asked her aide, trying to keep her voice steady. 17 worlds in the past month, Counselor, the young Zephyrian replied. His hands shook as he held the datapad. "The Kreth are moving faster than we thought." "Possible." Vethka closed her large eyes and took a deep breath. The Zephyrian coalition had lived in peace for over 300 years. Their worlds were beautiful places, with soft grass, gentle rains, and animals that never hurt anyone. The Zephyrians themselves were tall, thin beings who ate only plants and settled all problems with words. It's not violence, but the Kreth dominion was different. It's very different. The Kreth were monsters from the dark edge of the galaxy. They had thick black skin, sharp teeth, and claws that could cut through metal. They did not just defeat other species, they ate them. Every single one. They left nothing behind but empty worlds and bones. "What news from our defense fleets?" Vethka asked. Her aide looked down at his feet. "Stadmiral Kexta's fleet engaged. The Kreth near Haven's Rest yesterday. Only 3 ships made it back." Vethka felt her heart sink. Admiral Kexta had been their best military commander. If even he could not stop the Kreth, what hope did they have? She walked to the great window that looked out over the capital city. Below her, millions of Zephyrians went about their daily lives. They tended their gardens, taught their children, and created beautiful art. They had no idea that in a few weeks, the Kreth might be here to destroy everything they loved. "Counselor," her aide said softly, "the emergency council is waiting." "For you." Vethka nodded and walked to the meeting chamber. Inside, the other council members sat around a circular table. All of them looked as scared as she felt. These were the leaders of 12 different species. All peaceful, all herbivores, all completely unprepared for a war like this. "Friends," Vethka said, as she took her seat. "We all know why we are here. The Kreth advance faster each day. Our military cannot stop them. We need help." Counselor Wexta, an elderly being with gray fur and kind eyes, spoke first. "We have already asked every species we know." Eltarian said they cannot risk their own worlds. "The Centauri Federation wishes us well, but will not send ships. Even the Galactic Trade Union has refused to help." "They are all afraid," said another counselor, "and they have good reason to be. The Kreth have never been defeated, not once in 500 years. Vethka stood up and activated the large screen at the center of the room, showed a map of their galaxy with red marks spreading like a disease. Each red mark was a world the Kreth had destroyed, and we must try something else, she said. The old galactic laws speak of an emergency protocol. When a species faces total destruction, they may send a distress call to any and all civilizations, known or unknown. The room became very quiet. Using the emergency protocol meant admitting they were about to die. It also meant they might contact species they had never met before. That could be dangerous. "What choice do we have?" Vethka continued. "In 2 weeks, maybe 3, the Kreth will reach our core worlds. After that, the coalition will be nothing but a memory." One by one, the counselors agreed. They would send the emergency call. The message took 6 hours to prepare. It was broadcast on every frequency they knew, sent to every corner of the galaxy where intelligent life might exist. The message was simple. To any species receiving this transmission, the Zephyrian coalition faces complete destruction from the Kreth dominion. We ask for military assistance. You can offer payment in rare minerals, technology, or trade agreements. Please help us. Time is running out. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then responses began to come in. Most said no. Some species had heard of the Kreth and wanted nothing to do with them. Others were too far away to help in time. A few offered to take Zephyrian refugees, but that was not what the coalition needed. They needed someone to fight. On the 4th day, something strange happened. A signal came from a part of the galaxy that was not supposed to have any intelligent life. The star charts showed only dangerous worlds there, places with poisonous air. deadly weather, and savage animals. The message was short. We got your call, help is coming. Signed, Earth Defense Force. Earth. Vethka asked her science officer. What do we know about this world? The science officer, a young Zephyrian named Lithase, worked at her computer for several minutes. When she looked up, her face was confused. According to our records, Earth is a Class 12 Deathworld counselor. Maximum danger rating. The atmosphere contains poisonous oxygen. The gravity is 3 times what most species can handle. And the surface is covered with active volcanoes and violent storms. No intelligent life should be able to survive there. Yes. Then this must be a mistake, said Counselor Wexta. Perhaps a computer error or a translation problem. But Vethka was not so sure. The message had come with proper galactic codes and seemed to know exactly what they needed. Send a reply, she ordered. Ask them when they can arrive and how. Many ships they are bringing. The answer came back within an hour. Fleet will arrive in 5 days, bringing sufficient force to handle your problem. Prepare landing zones for ground troops. Earth sends its regards. Ground troops? The council members looked at each other in confusion. The Kreth fought in space with massive warships. What good would soldiers on the ground do? Should we tell them not to come? Asked one counselor. If they are from a death world, they might be dangerous to us too. Vethka thought about this for a long time. The Kreth would be here soon. Their own fleets were almost gone. These humans, whoever they were, might be their only chance. No, she said finally. We asked for help, someone answered. We have to trust them. As the days passed, more Kreth attacks destroyed more coalition worlds. The enemy was getting closer. Long-range sensors showed the main Kreth fleet moving toward Serenity Prime itself. On the 5th day, exactly when they said they would, the humans arrived. Vethka stood in the observation deck of the orbital station and watched the human fleet come out of hyperspace. What she saw made her gasp. The ships were huge, much bigger than anything the Coalition had ever built. They were dark gray and covered with what looked like weapons. Lots and lots of weapons. The largest ship was over 2 kilometers long and looked like it was designed for only one purpose. War. Counselor, her aide said, his voice shaking. They are requesting permission to dock. Should we... Should we let them aboard the station? Vethka stared at the human ships. They looked more dangerous than anything she had ever seen. But the Kreth were coming, and these humans were the only hope they had left. Yes, she said, let them come. The docking bay of Serenity Prime Station had never seen anything like the human shuttle. It was black and angular, with sharp edges that seemed designed to cut through space itself. When it landed, the whole deck shook from its weight. High Counselor? Vethka stood with her honor guard, waiting to meet these mysterious helpers. She had chosen her finest robes and practiced the proper greeting rituals. First contact with a new species was important. It had to be done right. The shuttle's door opened with a loud hiss. Steam poured out, making it hard to see inside. Then the humans stepped out. Vethka had to stop herself from taking a step back. The humans were massive. Each one stood almost 2 meters tall and looked like they were made of solid muscle. They wore dark uniforms covered with pockets and straps that held unknown tools. Their faces were unlike anything she had ever seen, eyes that pointed forward like a predator's, strong jaws, and skin that looked thick enough to stop a blade. The human in front had short brown hair and calm blue eyes. He walked with confidence, like he owned the station. Behind him came a woman with red hair and green eyes that seemed to see everything at once. They moved like hunters. Greetings, Vethka said, using the traditional Zephyrian welcome. Spread her arms wide and bowed her head. I am High Counselor Vethka of the Zephyrian Coalition. We thank you for answering our call for help. The lead human smiled, showing white teeth that looked very sharp. I'm Captain Ben Rodriguez, Earth Defense Force. This is Lieutenant Amy Carter, my tactical officer. He did not bow or spread his arms. Instead, he held out his hand. Vethka stared at the hand for a moment, not sure what to do. The human kept smiling and waiting. Finally, she reached out and touched his hand with hers. Captain Rodriguez gripped her hand firmly and shook it up and down. "It's good to meet you, counselor. We're here to help with your Kreth problem." "Yes, the Kreth," Vethka said, trying not to think about how strong the human's grip was. "Perhaps we should go to the conference room and discuss strategy."
Pounce!
"Good," Rodriguez said. "But first, we need to set up a command post and get our people situated. How many troops can you house on this station?" Troopska was confused. "You brought soldiers?" Lieutenant Carter stepped forward. She was smaller than the captain, but somehow looked even more dangerous. 3,000 Marines in the first wave, another 10,000 coming tomorrow. "With the heavy equipment?" "Heavy equipment?" Bethka's aide whispered to her. "What kind of equipment?" "Tanks, artillery, combat engineers. The usual," Carter said, like she was talking about groceries. "Don't worry, we brought our own supplies. We know how to rough it." As they walked through the station corridors, Vethka noticed something disturbing. Every human they passed carried weapons. Not small defensive tools, but large, deadly-looking devices that could probably blast through walls. When she asked about this, Captain Rodriguez seemed surprised. "Standard equipment," he said. "You never know when you might need them. It's better safe than sorry." In the conference room, Vethka introduced the humans to the other council members. She could see her colleagues were as shocked as she was by these strange beings from the death world. "Get down to business," Rodriguez said, sitting in a chair that creaked under his weight. "Tell us about the Kreth. Numbers, weapons, tactics, weaknesses." Counselor Wexta activated the holographic display, showed the Kreth advance over the past year. They have approximately 500 warships of various sizes. Their largest vessels are 3 kilometers long and carry enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They travel in groups called swarms and attack multiple targets at once. "Interesting," Lieutenant Carter said, studying the display. "What about their ground forces?" "Ground forces?" Wexta looked confused. "A Kreth do not use ground forces. They attack from space until a world surrenders. Then they land too, to consume the population." Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Carter looked at each other. Something passed between them that Vethka did not understand. "What about their ship defenses?" Rodriguez asked. "Shields, armor, point defense systems?" Zephyrian spent an hour explaining everything they knew about Kreth technology. The humans listened carefully and asked many questions. Some of their questions were strange, though. How do they handle boarding actions? Carter wanted to know. Boarding actions. Lithessa, the science officer, looked puzzled. "No one has ever tried to board a Kreth ship. That would be suicide." "What about their response to area denial weapons?" Rodriguez asked. "I do not understand what that means," Vethka admitted. The humans kept using words the Zephyrians had never heard before. Words like suppressing fire and tactical nuclear deployment and acceptable losses. When the Zephyrians asked what, these terms meant the humans seemed surprised that they did not know. "How do your people usually fight wars?" Carter asked. We do not fight wars," Wexta said slowly. "The coalition has been at peace for over 300 years. When we have disagreements, we talk until we find a solution that makes everyone happy." Rodriguez stared at him for a long moment. "You've never fought a war. Ever." "The last conflict was a trade dispute with the Vegan Merchants Guild," Vethka explained. "It lasted 6 months and ended when we agreed to lower our shipping rates by 3%. "And you consider that a war?" Carter asked. "It was very unpleasant," Vethka said defensively. Many harsh words were spoken. The two humans looked at each other again. This time Vethka was sure she saw them trying not to laugh. "Okay," Rodriguez said finally. "So you're complete pacifists going up against a species that has conquered half the galaxy through pure violence. That explains why you need help." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "And that explains why we brought enough firepower to glass a continent." Everyone turned to see another human entering the room. This one was even bigger than the others, with gray hair and scars on his face that spoke of old battles. His uniform had more decorations than the others. "Colonel Steve Davis," the man said, introducing himself. "I command the ground forces. Just wanted to let you know we've finished setting up the defensive perimeter around your station." "Defensive perimeter?" Vethka asked. "It's automated defense platforms, minefields, the works," Davis said casually. "If anything nasty comes calling, they'll get a warm welcome. We set up minefields around our station in the past hour." "Standard procedure?" Davis shrugged. "Can't be too careful in a war zone." Vethka felt dizzy. These humans had arrived, taken over her station's defenses, and filled it with thousands of armed soldiers in less than 2 hours. And they acted like this was perfectly normal, Colonel Rodriguez said. "What's the status on the heavy weapons?" "Orbital bombardment platforms. We'll be online in 6 hours," Davis reported. "The boys are already setting up the particle beam arrays. Should be able to sterilize a planet from 3 light seconds away." "Sterilize a planet?" Vethka gasped. "Just in case," Davis said with a friendly smile. "Hope we don't need them, but you know what they say, peace through superior firepower." The Zephyrians did not know what they said. They had never heard that phrase before. They were beginning to realize they had never heard any phrases like the ones these humans used. "Perhaps," Vethka said carefully, "we should discuss the rules of engagement. The Coalition believes in minimizing casualties and protecting civilian populations, of course." Rodriguez nodded. "Always try to keep civilian casualties to a minimum. Standard Earth military doctrine calls for no more than 10% collateral damage in urban operations." 10%? Wexta looked horrified. "That's considered pretty good," Carter added helpfully. "In a hot war zone, 30% is more normal." The room fell silent. The Zephyrians stared at the humans in shock. These beings spoke about death and destruction like it was mathematics. "How many wars has your species fought?" Vethka asked quietly. Rodriguez thought for a moment. "It's hard to say. We've got about 10,000 years of recorded history, and there's been some kind of conflict going on pretty much the whole time. Big wars, small wars, civil wars, colonial wars, resource wars, ... 10,000 years of war," Lethessa whispered. "Give or take," Davis said. "We're actually in one of the most peaceful periods in human history right now. Only about 15 active conflicts on Earth at the moment. 15 wars happening right now." Vethka felt faint. "Most of them are pretty small," Carter said. "Reassuringly, nothing like what we're planning for the Kreth." As the meeting continued, the Zephyrians began to understand what they had summoned. These humans were not just warriors. They were beings who had spent their entire history learning how to destroy things. They had words for dozens of different types of violence. They carried weapons like other species carried tools. They planned destruction with the same calm efficiency that Zephyrians planned gardens, and now they were here to fight the craft. Dashka was no longer sure if she should be grateful or terrified. Dr. Lythasay could not sleep. For 3 days now, the humans had been living on Serenity Prime Station, and everything about them was wrong. Not wrong in a bad way exactly, but wrong in a way that made her head hurt when she tried to understand. She sat in her laboratory, staring at the data she had collected. The readings made no sense. When the humans breathed, they took in oxygen and breathed out carbon dioxide. Oxygen was poison to most species in the galaxy. It was so dangerous that even small amounts could kill, but the humans needed it to live. They breathed poison like it was air. The gravity on their station was set to what the humans called Earth normal. When Lethesse tried to walk through their sections, she could barely move. The gravity was 3 times what her body was used to, but the humans moved like they were floating. They jumped and ran and lifted heavy objects like the crushing weight. Meant nothing. Fascinating, isn't it? A voice said behind her. Lethesse turned to see Dr. Nick Parker, one of the human medical officers. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gentle hands, but even he carried a weapon on his belt. All humans did. "Parker," she said, "I was just reviewing some data about your species. I hope you do not mind." "Not at all," he said, sitting down in a chair that immediately adjusted to hold his weight. Everything on the station had been modified for the humans. They were too big and too heavy for normal furniture. "What would you like to know?" "World," Lythase said. "Earth." The computer says it is a Class 12 death world. But you evolved there. How is that possible? Dr. Parker smiled. I guess it depends on what you mean by death world. To us, Earth is just home. He activated his personal tablet and showed her pictures. Lithessa gasped at what she saw. The first image showed a massive storm over an ocean. Lightning split the sky while waves as tall as buildings crashed against rocks. This is just a regular thunderstorm, Parker explained. We get thousands of these every year. The next picture showed a mountain exploding, throwing fire and melted rock into the sky. Volcanic eruption, pretty common. We have about 50 active volcanoes at any given time. Another image showed ice stretching to the horizon under a dark sky. That's Antarctica in winter. Temperatures drop to -40 degrees. The wind can strip flesh from bone in minutes. Tice stared at the pictures in horror. And humans live in these places? Sure, Parker said casually. I grew up in Minnesota. That's where it gets cold enough to freeze your spit before it hits the ground. My wife is from Arizona, where the air is so hot and dry it can cook an egg on the sidewalk. We vacation in places most species would consider uninhabitable. But how do you survive? Parker thought about this for a moment. I guess we adapt. When something tries to kill us, we figure out how to kill it back. When the environment is hostile, we change it or change ourselves. It's just what we do. Showed her more pictures. Humans swimming in water filled with creatures that had huge teeth. Humans climbing mountains so high, there was no air to breathe. Humans running across deserts where the heat could melt metal. This is impossible, Lithessa whispered. The first time our species discovered fire, Parker continued, we were probably supposed to run away from it. Instead, we decided to control it. When we found predators that wanted to eat us, we learned to hunt them first. When diseases tried to kill us, we created medicine to kill the diseases. Your entire evolution was warfare? Pretty much, Parker nodded. Everything on Earth was trying to kill everything else. You just got really good at not dying. That afternoon, Lithessa attended a training exercise the humans were conducting. She wanted to see how they prepared for battle. What she saw made her question everything she thought she knew about intelligent life the humans had set up. What they called a mock battle scenario in one of the cargo bays. Two teams of soldiers were fighting each other using weapons that fired harmless light beams instead of deadly projectiles, but there was nothing harmless about the way they moved. Sergeant Rick Johnson led one team through what he called urban warfare tactics. Lithessa watched in amazement as the humans threw themselves through the air, rolled behind cover, and coordinated attacks with hand signals. They moved like predators hunting prey, covering fire, Johnson shouted, and his team laid down a barrage of simulated gunfire while another soldier ran across open ground. Flanking maneuver, someone else called, and half the team split off to attack from a different direction. The humans used words Lithessa had never heard before. Suppressing fire, tactical withdrawal, concentrated assault, acceptable losses. When one soldier was killed by a light beam, his teammates did not stop to mourn him. They continued fighting, using his position as cover. When Lithessa asked about this later, they seemed confused by her question. It's just training, Major Lisa Thompson explained. In real combat, you can't stop for the wounded until the area is secure. That's how you lose more people. But he was your friend, Lithessa protested. Of course he is. That's why we fight smart instead of emotional. The best way to honor the fallen is to complete the mission and go home alive. After the exercise, Lithessa spoke with some of the human soldiers. What she learned disturbed her even more. Where I come from, said Corporal Beth Adams, a young woman with bright eyes and quick hands, we have something called hurricane season. For 3 months every year, storms with winds over 200 kilometers per hour try to destroy everything we've built. We just board up our windows and wait it out. My hometown, added Private Joe Miller. We have tornado drills in school. When the alarms go off, all the kids practice hiding in the basement until the spinning wind that can throw cars around goes away. My family lives near the San Andreas Fault, said another soldier. Every few years the ground shakes so hard, It knocks down buildings. We just rebuild and keep going. They spoke about these things like they were normal. Natural disasters that would end civilizations were just part of growing up human. What about your wildlife? Lethessa asked. The humans looked at each other and started laughing. We have bears that weigh 800 kilograms and can run 50 kilometers per hour, Beth said. Sharks with teeth like knives that hunt in the water, Joe added. Spiders whose bite can kill you in minutes, said another. Snakes that can. Swallow animals whole. Crocodiles that have stayed basically unchanged for 200 million years because they're already perfect killing machines. We have jellyfish that are almost invisible in the water, Beth continued. Touch one and you die in agony. What do you do about all these dangerous creatures? Lethessa asked. Depends, Joe shrugged. Sometimes we avoid them. Sometimes we hunt them. Sometimes we keep them as pets. You keep predators as pets? My family has 2 dogs, Beth said. They're descended from wolves. Wild dogs that hunt in packs and can take down animals 10 times their size, but we bred them to be loyal to humans instead. You took wolves and made them into companions? It took us about 10,000 years, but yeah, we do that with lots of dangerous animals. Horses were wild and could kick a man's head clean off. Now we ride them for fun. Cattle were aggressive creatures with sharp horns. Now we raise them for food. Lethessa felt sick. You domesticate your predators? The useful ones, Joe nodded. The ones that aren't useful, we either avoid or eliminate. Don't let anything threaten our families. That evening, Lifesay reported, to High Counselor Vethka. The news from the front lines was bad. 3 more coalition worlds had fallen to the Kreth. The enemy would reach the core system soon. What have you learned about our human allies? Feth asked. LYTHSA looked at her datapad, then set it aside. Counselor, I believe we have made a terrible mistake. What do you mean, these humans? They are not like us. They are not like us. Anyone. Their entire species evolved in constant warfare against their own planet. They breathe poison, live under crushing gravity, and consider natural disasters to be minor inconveniences. But they are here to help us. Are they? Lethessa asked. Or are they here because they enjoy fighting? Every human I have spoken to seems excited about the coming battle. They use words that mean things I cannot translate. They plan destruction, like we plan festivals. Vethka was quiet for a long moment. Are you saying they are dangerous to us? I am saying they are dangerous to everything, Lethessa replied. The question is whether they are more dangerous to the Kreth than they are to us. Before Vethka could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the station. Both women looked at the main display as it activated. Emergency transmission from the outer sensor grid, the computer announced. The screen showed space around Serenity Prime. Dozens of red dots were moving toward them at high speed. Kreth attack fleet, the computer continued. Estimated time to arrival, 14 hours. Vethka felt her heart stop. The enemy had found them sooner than expected. Across the station, human voices could be heard over the communication system, but they were not panicked or afraid. They sounded eager. All hands to battle stations, Captain Rodriguez's voice echoed through the corridors. This is not a drill. Bad guys are coming, and it's time to show them what Earth is all about. The distance. Lethessa could hear the humans cheering. She realized with growing horror that the humans were looking forward to this. The Kreth fleet came out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects.
Ow!
War leader Threxka stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher, and studied the strange ships waiting for them near the Coalition station. The Kreth were masters of fear. For 500 years, they had conquered species across the galaxy by showing them exactly what happened to those who resisted. Every ship in Threxka's fleet was covered with the bones of their enemies. Every hull was painted with the blood of worlds they had consumed. But these new ships were different. They were dark and angular with no decorations except weapons. Lots and lots of weapons. What are those vessels? Threxka growled to his tactical officer. Unknown design, war leader. They do not match any known coalition ships. No matter, Threxka said, showing his sharp teeth. We will add their bones to our collection. He opened a communication channel. 2 all-ships in his fleet, warriors of the Dominion. These weak plant-eaters have found some new friends to die with them. Show them why the galaxy fears our name. The Kreth fleet charged forward. 200 warships against 30 human vessels. It should have been a massacre. It was just not the kind Threxka expected. Captain Sam Mitchell stood on the bridge of the battleship Liberty as the enemy fleet approached. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. No one seemed worried. About being outnumbered 6-1? Range to target? Mitchell asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, his weapons officer reported. Still too far, Mitchell said. Let them get closer. On Serenity Prime Station, High Counselor Vethka watched the approaching battle with growing fear. The Kreth ships were huge and covered with weapons. The human fleet looked tiny by comparison. Shouldn't they retreat? She asked Captain Rodriguez. Who was coordinating the defense from the station? Retreat? Rodriguez looked confused. We just got here. But there are so many of them. 200 ships? Rodriguez shrugged. That's not too bad. We face worse odds. Before Vethka could ask what he meant by that, the battle began. The Kreth opened fire first, sending massive energy beams toward the human fleet. The humans did not try to dodge. Instead, their ships moved to form what military experts would later call a wall of battle. Then the humans fired back. What happened next changed everything anyone thought they knew about space combat. The human weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, they fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Chunks of metal moving so fast, they punched through Kreth armor like it was paper. But that was just the beginning. Missiles swarm away. Mitchell's weapons, officer reported. From every human ship, hundreds of small objects launched toward the Kreth fleet. The Kreth point defense systems tried to shoot them down. But there were too many. When the missiles hit, they did not just explode. They released clouds of smaller weapons that spread out like deadly flowers. Each cloud contained thousands of tiny projectiles that moved on their own, seeking out enemy ships in the first 30 seconds of combat. The Kreth lost 50 ships. War leader Threxka stared at his tactical display in shock. What are those weapons? Unknown war leader. Our shields are useless against them. All ships, full assault, ram them if you have to. But as the Kreth fleet closed distance, the humans revealed their next surprise. Particle beam arrays charging, the human weapons officer announced calmly. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the human ships. But these were not ordinary energy weapons. They were focused to the width of a single atom and moved at the speed of light. When they hit a Kreth ship, they did not just damage the hull. They turned entire sections into vapor. Impossible, Threxka whispered. No species has weapons like this. He was wrong. Humans did not just have weapons like this. They had much worse ones waiting. Captain Mitchell's tactical officer said, enemy ships are breaking through our outer perimeter. Some are heading for the station. Time for Plan B, Mitchell nodded. Signal all ships. Activate close defense protocols. What the Kreth saw next made even these hardened warriors afraid. The human ships began to change. Hidden panels opened to reveal even more weapons. Turrets that had been concealed under armor plating swiveled to track targets. Each human vessel became a floating fortress of destruction. But the most terrifying thing was not the weapons themselves. It was how the humans used them. The Kreth had fought many species. Some were strong, some were clever, some were desperate. But they had never fought anyone who seemed to enjoy the battle. The human ships moved like they were dancing, coordinated their attacks with perfect timing. They took damage that should have crippled them and kept fighting. When one ship was badly hurt, the others covered it while it repaired itself and came back into the fight. They fight like a pack, one of Threxka's officers said with growing fear. Like predators. That was exactly what they were. On Serenity Prime, Dr. Lethasay watched the battle with amazement and horror. The humans were not just winning, they were dominating. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed like they were. Made of paper? How are they doing this? she asked Dr. Parker, who was calmly watching the tactical display. Standard Earth Naval Doctrine, Parker replied. Concentrate firepower. Maintain formation. Never give the enemy a fair fight. But the Kreth have never been defeated. The Kreth have never fought humans before, Parker said simply. As the battle continued, something even more disturbing happened. A group of Kreth ships broke away from the main fight and headed for Haven's Rest. A coalition world with 2 billion inhabitants. They're going to destroy the civilians, Vethka gasped. But Captain Rodriguez was already moving. Mitchell, you see those ships heading for Haven's Rest? I see them, came the reply over the communication system. Stop them, we'll do Liberty out.
Out!
The battleship Liberty turned away from the main battle and accelerated toward Haven's Rest. Behind it came 6 other human ships. They were outnumbered 3-1 by the Kreth ships. Heading for the planet, the humans did not seem to care about the odds. What followed was the most one-sided battle in galactic history. The human ships reached Haven's Rest first and placed themselves between the planet and the attacking Kreth. This is Captain Mitchell of the Earth battleship Liberty, came a broadcast on all frequencies. You are approaching a protected world. Turn around now or be destroyed. The Kreth war leader commanding the attack group laughed. Foolish humans, you cannot stop us all. Watch us, Mitchell replied. The humans opened fire with everything they had. The Kreth ships tried to fight back, but it was like attacking a hurricane with stones. One by one, the enemy vessels were torn apart by weapons they could not understand or defend against, in less than 10 minutes. 30 Kreth warships were nothing but floating debris. Back at the main battle, war leader Threxka realized his fleet was dying. More than half his ships were gone, and the humans had barely been scratched. All ships retreat, he ordered. We withdraw, but the humans were not finished with them. Pursuit course, Captain Rodriguez ordered from the station. Do not let them escape, sir, one of his officers asked. Shouldn't we let them go? We've won. Rodriguez looked at him like he had said something strange. They came here to destroy innocent people. They don't get to just leave and try again somewhere else. The human fleet chased the retreating Kreth across 3 star systems. Every time the enemy tried to make a stand, the humans overwhelmed them. With superior firepower and tactics, ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were hunted down like animals. When it was over, the entire Kreth attack fleet was gone. Not defeated, completely destroyed. 200 ships and 50,000 of the galaxy's most feared warriors had been wiped out by 30 human vessels. But the humans were not celebrating. They were already planning their next move. Sir Mitchell reported to Rodriguez's enemy. Fleet eliminated. What are our orders? The Kreth main fleet is still out there, Rodriguez replied, and they have a lot of coalition worlds under occupation. I think it's time we paid them a visit. On Serenity Prime Station, the coalition leaders sat in stunned silence. In one day, these humans from the Deathworld had accomplished what the galaxy thought was impossible. They had not just defeated the Kreth, they had made it look easy. How many casualties did we take? Vethka asked quietly. 17 wounded, Rodriguez reported. No deaths, 17 wounded, against 200 enemy ships. This is impossible, Counselor Wexta whispered. Dr. Parker overheard him and smiled. You wanted help from someone who could fight the Kreth? You got help from someone who has been fighting things worse than the Kreth their whole lives. Yeah, what could be worse than the Kreth? Lithessa asked. Parker thought about this for a moment. On Earth, we have a saying. The only thing worse than fighting humans is being human and having to live with all the things that are trying to kill us. As the human fleet prepared to hunt down the remaining Kreth forces, Vethka realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. These humans did not just fight wars, they won them, completely and permanently. She was no longer worried about the Kreth. She was starting to worry about what would happen after the humans had eliminated them. 6 months after the first battle at Serenity Prime, the galaxy was a very different place. The Kreth Dominion, which had terrorized civilizations for 500 years, no longer existed. Ambassador Kate Morrison stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council, looking out at representatives from over 200 species. 6 months ago, most of these beings had never heard of humans. Now they hung on every word she said. The liberation of the former Kreth territories is complete, she announced. All occupied worlds have been freed. All Kreth military installations have been dismantled. The threat they pose to galactic civilization has been permanently eliminated. The hall erupted in applause, but Kate noticed that not all the delegates looked happy. Some seemed worried. A few looked downright terrified. She understood why. The human military had not just defeated the Kreth, they had hunted them across 50 star systems, destroying every ship, every base, and every outpost with methodical efficiency. What had been the galaxy's most feared empire was now nothing but wreckage floating in space, and the humans had done it in 6 months after the assembly. Kate met with High Counselor Vethka in a private conference room. The Zephyrian leader looked older than she had 6 months ago. The stress of recent events had taken its toll. The Council is grateful for everything humanity has done, Vethka said carefully. The Coalition worlds are safe thanks to your people's effectiveness. I sense a but coming, Kate replied with a smile. Vethka hesitated. Some species are concerned about what comes next. You have shown that human military capabilities are beyond anything we imagined. Some wonder if you will be content to simply return to your own space. Kate had been expecting this question. What would you prefer we do? I do not know, Vethka admitted. Before you arrived, we thought the Kreth were invincible. Now we have seen them destroyed by a force we still do not fully understand. How do we know you will not decide that other species need to be ... eliminated? Before Kate could answer, her communication device chimed. She looked at the message and smiled. Actually, she said, I think General Clark would like to discuss that with you personally. He just arrived from Earth. An hour later, General Tony Clark sat across from the assembled coalition leadership. He was a big man with gray hair and calm eyes, wearing a simple uniform with no decorations except a small Earth flag on his shoulder. I understand you have some concerns about human intentions, he said, without preamble. That's reasonable. We did just eliminate an entire civilization in 6 months. The coalition leaders shifted uncomfortably. Let me be clear about something, Clark continued. Kreth were monsters. They had consumed entire species and shown no mercy to anyone. Dealing with them was not warfare. It was pest control. But how do we know you will not see other species? The same way? Asked Counselor Wexta. Clark leaned back in his chair. Because the Kreth attacked innocent people and showed no interest in peace. As far as we can tell, the rest of you are decent folks just trying to live your lives. You have no interest in bothering decent folks. But you are so much more powerful than us, Vethka said. If you wanted to take our worlds, we could not stop you. True. Clark nodded. But why would we want to? You make good neighbors. You trade honestly. You don't start fights. And you ask for help when you need it. From our perspective, having friends like you is much better than having subjects or enemies. Dr. Lythasay, who had been studying human behavior for months, spoke up. General, your species has been fighting wars for thousands of years. Do you not find it ... difficult to live in peace? Clark smiled. Dr. Lythas, right. I've read your reports. You do good work. He stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the station. You want to know something about humans? We only fight when we have to. Yes, we're good at it. Yes, we've had a lot of practice. But what we really want is to build things, explore new places, and make friends with interesting people. Then why do you have so many wars on Earth? Lythasa asked. Because we haven't figured out how to get everyone to cooperate yet, Clark admitted. Earth has a lot of different groups with different ideas about how things should work. Sometimes those differences lead to conflict. But we're getting better at talking things out. He turned back to face the group. Besides, having met the galaxy, I think we're going to be too busy out here to worry about old grudges back home. What do you mean? Vethka asked. Clark activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Folks have been living in a pretty small corner of space. Kreth controlled a big chunk of territory, and everyone else was hiding in the areas they left alone. But now that the Kreth are gone, there's a lot of empty space out there. He pointed to vast regions on the map. Unclaimed systems, abandoned colonies, Worlds that could support life but have been empty for centuries because no one dared to settle. Them while the Kreth were around. Do you want to expand into former Kreth space? Counselor Wexta asked. We want to help you expand into it, Clark corrected. Humans are good at living in dangerous places, but we're not the only ones who should benefit from the Kreth being gone. All of you have been crowded into a small area for too long. Time to spread out. Kate Morrison stood up. Earth is proposing a new alliance structure. We help with security and expansion. We help with science, trade, and cultural exchange. Everyone benefits. An alliance? Vethka looked uncertain. What would that mean exactly? It means, Clark said, that when someone threatens coalition worlds, they're threatening Earth's friends. And Earth takes a very dim view of people who threaten our friends. And if we disagree with Earth about something, asked another counselor, then we disagree. Kate shrugged. We talk about it, maybe we argue a bit. Eventually we figure out a compromise. That's what friends do. Over the following weeks, word of the proposed human coalition alliance spread throughout the galaxy. The reaction was immediate and varied. Some species rushed to apply for membership. The Altarians, who had refused to help fight the Kreth, suddenly discovered they had always admired coalition values. Centauri Federation offered to host diplomatic conferences. Even the Galactic Trade Union expressed interest in exploring mutual beneficial arrangements. Other species were less enthusiastic. The hegemony of Zal, which had secretly been hoping to expand into former coalition territory after the Kreth, finished destroying it, suddenly found their plans obsolete. They began building larger military fleets just in case. The most interesting reaction came from the Vorthok Empire, a militaristic species that had always considered themselves the galaxy's premier warriors. Their war emperor sent a message directly to General Clark. Humans, the message read. The Vorthok acknowledge your victory over the Kreth. We wish to test our strength against yours in honorable combat. Clark's response was brief. If you attack anyone under our protection, you will find out exactly how we deal with bullies. If you want to be friends, you are welcome to visit. If you want to compare military capabilities, we can arrange some joint training exercises. But if you're looking for a war, you should ask the Kreth how that worked out for them. The Vorthok War Emperor spent several days studying the records of human military actions. Then he sent another message. Joint training exercises sound very educational. When can we start? Back on Serenity Prime, the final treaty negotiations were taking place. The Human Coalition Alliance would be a voluntary association of equals, with Earth providing military protection in exchange for open trade, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense agreements. There is one more thing, General Clark said. As they prepared to sign the documents, Earth's government wants you to know that the forces you've seen so far represent about 2% of our total military capability. The room fell silent. 2%, Vethka whispered. We sent an expeditionary force, Clark explained. We didn't want to overwhelm you folks or make you feel like we were invading. But if serious threats emerge in the future, we can provide a much more comprehensive response. Dr. Lithasay did some quick calculations in her head. If the humans could eliminate the Kreth Dominion with 2% of their military, what could they do with all of it? She decided she did not want to find out. As the treaty was signed and the new alliance became official, news of the event spread across the galaxy at light speed. Within days, every major power knew that humanity had emerged as the galaxy's new, dominant military force. But the humans themselves seemed remarkably uninterested in dominating anyone. They were too busy exploring former Kreth space, establishing new colonies, and making friends with species they had never met before. Prime Minister Helen Foster, Earth's selected leader, sent a message to the Galactic Council that would be remembered. For centuries, to all civilizations receiving this transmission, Earth extends greetings and friendship to all peaceful species. We have no interest in conquest or empire. We do have a strong interest in ensuring that peaceful people can live their lives without fear of predators like the Kreth. We are explorers, traders, and builders. We are also soldiers when we need to be. Any species that threatens innocent life we'll discover why Earth's children have survived on a death world for millions of years. To those who choose friendship, we offer partnership, protection, and endless possibilities. To those who choose aggression, we offer one chance to reconsider. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to live in peace. Let's keep it that way. As the message spread throughout known space, the galaxy settled into a new era. The age of the Kreth was over. The age of the Human Coalition Alliance had begun, and in the dark spaces between the stars, other ancient evils that had been waiting for the right moment to emerge decided that perhaps they would wait a little longer. Earth's children had come to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same.